There was one company that was at $2 million a year, and the founder was trapped and didn't know if they were going to make payroll every single month. And this is very common with tech companies. There's a couple different companies that we own that have this experience. And so if you're anywhere between 40K to 400K a month, this video will be really, really relevant to you, because that is it's what happens in that stage. There's almost a middle class of founders out there. Okay. Like, if you're below 30K, 40K a month, like, you can, as an indie hacker, as a solopreneur, like, you can have a pretty good lifestyle. And then if you're above like 800K a month, it gets a lot easier. And you make a lot more money, and you're a lot happier. Like, the valuations are there as well. But in between, it gets tough. It gets really, really tough. And the founder that I'm thinking about specifically, like, was every single month that was like a reset for this founder, where they had to find a way to make it work, whether it was hit payroll or hit the next revenue goal or deliver for the client or put out the fire, or I don't know if any of these things happen in your life. Maybe it just feels like you're trapped. And I called this specific scenario like trapped, tech company trap. And you kind of wonder when you're there, like, hey, should I just get a job? Because honestly, you can make $1 to $2 million a year if you're a decent founder and you've made it to $2 million a year as a company. You could probably get a job at Google or any of these big tech companies that pays out, in money into the bank versus like just revenue, right? Like, profit is a whole different story. It pays out the same amount. And so that usually comes up. And so to turn this around, and I've taken companies from like 300K to 10 million a year, $2 million to 10 million a year, like 40K a year to 10 million a year. Like, I've taken them on this journey. There's really three things that I've done, and I'm thinking specifically for this company, but it applies to some other companies that follow the same pattern, to really unlock that. And so we'll go through that in this video here today. And the first thing is really team. Now, a lot of people say that a lot, right? Like, there's culture and there's team and there's all these airy fairy words that people kind of bandy around. But I think it's really important to not just get a team that fits in well with the market and the complexity of your product, but also how you treat that team and what side of the team you bring out as you go through it. So what do I mean by that? This specific company that I'm thinking about, the founder had a really good team that was really close. Okay, they all talked like almost every day, and they had gotten the company to 2 million. So they weren't like super rock stars, but they were a solid team, right? And they were all doing their individual jobs well, and they had been in the industry before, and they knew the ins and outs, and like, they fit really well. It was a complex product in a very specific industry, and they had the workings of those two things together. Some people that were on the delivery side were really good with a complex product, and they had worked in that sector. And people on the sales and marketing side, like, they had done the industry, they understood the people, like, they had big business owners. So like, when they're taking sales calls, like, they kind of understand exactly what people are going through, And so the fit was there. But when you push so hard and you get to 2 million from, nothing, at a certain point you plateau. Your energy or momentum or drive just starts, like, you get tired. You win enough championship years, you start, like, your mind starts getting weary, right? You can condition your body to show up every single day, but your mind will start seeing the repetitiveness of this, the nature of this, right? And so there was meetings that we would do once a week with this team to completely reframe that, to get to that next level, but to want to do more work, right? As a really good team is super hungry for problems. They're looking for the next fire that might come up. They're looking to solve problems before they arise. They're looking for systemic advantages, asymmetries, and everything they do to be able to kind of move ahead. But if you find it repetitive to do so, if you kind of get knocked off your game, some people will say, like, oh, is this person broken? Like, then you don't really have the armor and the chain links in the armor to be able to go through this journey. right? And I don't know. A lot of people in this day and age like want everybody's feelings to be heard and people to like feel safe and all these things are good. They're not bad. But there will be really intense moments of conflict when you're going from, 40K, a couple 100K, 400K to 10 million. There's really intense moments of conflict. People will be screaming like almost viscerally in these meetings. What you do then as a leader and where you take them to build their character in those lowest moments that they have and not feel judged and not judge them and not, categorize them as a certain type of person, but allow them to process that emotion and change who they are in an instant to a better, higher version of themselves. It's one of the hardest things to do ever, right? This person's taking time away from their family and they need to understand that they want to actually take more time away from their family so they can provide from their family, right? And that they're going to take maybe a little time away from health so that way they can get more health once the company is cruising, right? There's certain small trade-offs that they'll have to make to be able to get out of this trap area, right? Between 40 to 400K a year that creates this like middle class kind of feeling. It goes all the way up to 800K, but that's kind of the area where you'll feel like, why am I doing this? What am I doing? Am I in the right thing? Founders wake up in the middle of the night, cold sweats. Sometimes I've heard they're so stressed that they're like puking. And they don't talk about this stuff. And teams don't talk about this stuff. It's freaky. It freaks people out. I remember there was a time where we were doing over $1 million a month in a company. And we were at an offsite. And some of the team members are like, I see the numbers, but I don't know if it's real. Like, even though they saw the money come into the accounts, it still didn't feel real for them. Like, most people can't comprehend that would actually exist in someone's nervous system. But when you're like just running as hard as you can for as long as you can without that many results, once you start getting success and start ramping up like crazy, people have these emotions that come out that don't make any sense. It makes sense, right? Because the emotions aren't logical, but it happens. And what you do in those moments and how you show up in those moments is absolutely key. So we can call it culture, we can call it team, we can call it whatever you want. But in that moment, how you all condition yourselves will dictate whether or not you get out of this trap. Because it is a trap and it does suck. And there's a lot of founders, I think almost every single one has these moments, 10%, 30% a year, where they're like, what am I doing? I should just quit. Right? Who you are in those moments really matters. Whether you stare your goals and the vision and where you're going at the times where you're not sure if you can make payroll. That really matters. That's how you condition who you are. What shows up in those moments, who shows up in those moments really matters. And so that first thing is team. I highly recommend you make sure your team fits in and then help them condition themselves. And it really all starts with the founder themselves. If you can condition yourself and your mind to go in the right direction, focus, and have this completely different level of awareness that opens up, you can help these people go through it as well. And some of them will help you. But you don't want to rely too much on them as the founder. You want to make sure you're guiding that. And you're taking the company in the direction that is your vision, the reason you started the business. I don't know what it is for you, but there's probably some sort of impact or problem you want to solve that comes up in your mind when you think about that. We want to make sure it's always being driven to make sure that that happens. Okay, so that's the first one. Sit down and really say, hey, like, what am I going to do to make sure this team can just get way more out of themselves? Way more out of themselves. Okay. Next, I would say think a lot bigger. Okay. And thinking bigger doesn't mean like, oh, let me change this number. Instead of 10 million, I'm going to get to 100 million on the year. That's not thinking bigger. Thinking bigger is, what are the things you need to do now to be a serious business owner that brings this intensity of presence in the moment that is going to dictate your long-term success? Okay. A big piece of this is abstracting your biggest problem. So this specific company that I've been mentioning this entire time, the biggest problem was the founder had to jump in to solve client problems and put out fires. And then, at 2 million, you can show up for every single thing. At 10 and beyond, you cannot. It's just not physically possible.
And so we had to find a person to take on that load that was better than the founder at taking on that load, that would drive companies to success, both from like a logical, logistical perspective to where the product's being delivered, but also to where the companies that have gotten this result understand they've gotten the result and they're emotionally locked in and bought in as well.
And so getting someone to do that was massive. But I don't know if that's your specific problem
That's driving you crazy. That's taking up your emotional and like temporal load.
I, you'll have to find that for yourself. But the only way you're going to want to find that out for yourself is if you start thinking bigger. You don't just focus on, the month or the quarter or the year. Like, you start thinking in terms of years, and then you're backing that into, what do I really need to get out of my way so I can consistently be in this mental space? Okay, so abstract your biggest problem. So for that founder, it was delivery. For other founders, it's cash. It's maybe they have to raise some money. Most of the people in our group are bootstrapped or seed strapped, but we had some that have had to raise tens of millions of dollars to offset certain infrastructure things that they had to do. And whatever that bottleneck or biggest problem that you have is, get out of your way. It just gets so much easier. Okay. You can abstract that problem. One abstraction can get you to 10 million. There's usually one thing that's holding you down, not just logically or logistically, but also like mentally, psychically, like not like woo-woo psychically, like literally in your mind, how much brain power you're using, whether it's in the forefront or the back of your mind. We need to free that up so that way you can think bigger and just be more serious every single day. Right? Like, get the business insurance, get the revenue insurance, get the things that are going to stop you from, losing out and cap your downside a lot more. Like, be a serious business owner, and things change a lot. So thinking bigger, build some moats, guys. That's for whatever reason, I don't know why people don't do that, but build some moats so people can't come in, or maybe the partners you have can't come in and take your market share. Dominate the market share if you want to. All right. Third thing. And this is key. And I wish more people talked about this, because at this point, you're going to 10 million or you're past 10 million, but you see it in front of you. Founders will do one of two things. And I highly recommend you don't do this thing, which is stop running your company like $1 billion company. Don't run your company like $1 billion company. Okay? Like, people, and this happens very, very, very often, they will hire a really, really expensive C-suite person. I've seen CFO, I've seen a CRO, I've seen a CEO, a COO. They'll just hire this super expensive person. Okay? They'll hire from like this massive company that has this huge infrastructure, and it's not a small band like your startup is. And they'll just put them in there and say, okay, you've run that big thing, so you can probably run this small thing. But it goes back to, would you have the right team? The way someone runs a $1 billion organization, multi-billion dollar organization, is very different than running your business. The level of complexity of the product is going to be different, whether that's on the delivery or on the sales and marketing side. The size of the team that's going to be, the teams that are going to be working on these things are different. Like, people will say, oh, don't worry, I'll roll my sleeves up. But that doesn't mean the same thing. Like, the level of responsibility and ownership you have to take in a tech company and a startup as you scale this thing, it's 150% at least. When you say you're going to do something, you got to go do that thing. Otherwise, your team becomes a bunch of people that just say they're going to do stuff and don't do stuff. Like, that doesn't fly. That's not what the business needs right now. So do not do that. I've seen so many people do that. Even if you've already started it, get rid of it. Get rid of it. I wish I'd seen one example of it working well. I literally have not. Out of the hundreds of companies that I've advised and thousands of companies that I've talked to when considering advising them, I have not seen a single person say, hey, we did a really great thing. We hired this person that's from this multi-billion dollar organization, and they turned us into a multi-billion dollar organization. Never been seen. Once you're at $1 billion, you want to get to like 10 billion, 40 billion. Yeah, that makes total sense, because they can bring their teams over and like you can do the whole thing. At this stage, do not do that. So you're going to do one of two things at this stage instead. Either you're going to optimize your business for cash flow, or you're going to optimize it to be a sellable asset. Okay. Don't run it like this billion-dollar company. It'll destroy you. You don't need a full C-suite when you're below 10 million.
Even when you're at 10 million, like you just don't. You don't. A couple of great sales reps, a marketer, maybe a couple marketers, a solid delivery team, a solid lean tech team, and you can be making a good amount of profit on 10 million. You want to get out of the day-to-day, get a chief of staff or a COO that's done something that's someone before, get out of the day-to-day and live inside your business and, wherever makes you feel come alive. But don't walk away from the business and think it's going to run on its own. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen.
Like, this is your baby. Like, this is like your life.
It would make no sense to treat a teenager like a 50-year-old. It makes no sense to run your startup like a billion-dollar company. And
honestly, on the inside, these billion-dollar companies are not doing that well. A lot of them have been repriced to less than $1 billion. They've raised a lot of money. There's liquidation preferences on this money. Like, they got to pay back a lot. And once you're at $1 billion, there's not that many exit paths. The IPO market's not going off like it used to. Like, you're basically staying private, or you're selling to someone. Not that many people buy billion-dollar companies. Not that many companies do that. And so this $1 billion unicorn thing that's been going on like that, just like go talk to a bunch of unicorn founders that are super happy. If you find some, please tag them below. Like, honestly, like, I would love to see that play out because I have not seen it play out. Okay. So going back to this, optimize it for a cash flow. So get a couple million of profit out of your business. Use that to invest into the next company that can scale up to, hundreds of millions of free cash flow. Because that's the goal at the end of the day. Free cash flow. I've talked to a lot of people that have built a lot of businesses, and the ones that are happy, truly happy, have free cash flow. Millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, actual legitimate billion-dollar companies that are based on discounted cash flows, not based on VC hype and markup, so that way the VC can raise their next fund. Build a real business. Your body will thank you. Your soul will thank you. Your family will thank you. Your friends will thank you. Your team will thank you. Like, it really matters. And, I appreciate you tuning in for this rant, but these three things are what get teams to 10 million. And honestly, it's a very nice place to be when you're at 10 million with free cash flow. It'll open up what you think is possible. It'll make you feel very different on a day-to-day basis. And you'll have a lot more fun. Like, whatever you think is fun now, like, it'll ratchet up like crazy. If you're in the middle class right now, 40 to hundreds of thousands a month, it's a tough place to be. And so I empathize with you. I recommend doing something to get out of it. I implore you to do that because life gets much better. And I'm telling you that from experience. It gets much better. It's a completely different version of life. And you can do it. But you've got to really focus on these things. Team, conditioning your team, thinking bigger, abstracting your biggest problem, and then stop running your business like a $1 billion company. Optimize for cash flow or for it to be a sellable asset. But because, like I said, the people that are smaller, they're doing well. They got good profit. The people that are larger are doing really well. But this middle class is really struggling, and it's not fun to be there. So anyways, thanks for tuning in for our rant. Comment below with any questions, comments, concerns you may have. And I'm rooting for you. It's fun when you get out, and I'll high five you at the end. Cheers.